Hey guys, my name is Seppi. Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to do it more a little bit like a podcast style. I have my friend Matt on here with me, and we're going to be talking about Halo Infinite, not necessarily the Xbox showcase that they just revealed, but just specifically Halo Infinite. So we have a couple things to say about it. This is kind of basically going to be the first real taste of each other's feelings on it. So we don't really fully know each other's opinions. But we'll kind of see where we fall in line and what we have to say on that's different. But starting with so really quickly, if you guys don't know, the gameplay that was revealed was about 8 minutes long. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've seen it. If you haven't, definitely go watch it. Come back to this video. But let's start with kind of the graphics and the art style. We'll compile that together. That'll kind of just be one specific thing, and yeah, I think that's going to be a good place to start because I think that's like the biggest point of contention in the fan base right now. So Matt, what do you have to say about the graphics and the art style? Mainly, yeah, I mean, I guess you can kind of keep it as separate as you want, or you can just kind of compile them together. But how do you feel about the graphics of what you've seen so far?
Yeah. So in my opinion, and I mentioned this to you earlier, the graphics and the art style or art direction or however whatever term you want to use for it
Yeah.
really kind of go hand in hand. It's difficult to describe them separately because there are some people who understandably think that older games like, for example, Halo 3 or Halo Reach actually look about as good as this in some ways, even though the fidelity isn't quite as good. Like, oh, the resolution's higher. Oh, I can go up to this rock face and I can see
Hmm.
so much more, detail. Like I can go up to a human face and I can see the pores in their skin. But when you go back and you see the whole visual, it just doesn't it doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually going to look as good when you take a step back and you look at the whole thing. It's like when an artist is trying to I don't know, sculpt a bust of a head. If you spend too much time focusing on the eyes, it's all going to look weird. You have to periodically take a step back. And I think that Infinite is maybe suffering from a little bit of that. I don't want to say suffering because it looks good. It looks
Yeah.
good to me. But I am definitely in the boat of I actually overall prefer the look of Halo 3. There's just something about the lighting and the bloom and the plasma effects, and especially like the blood and explosions and special effects like that just look so much more real to me in Halo 3 despite the lower resolution. There are a lot of tricks that they did in the textures where even though they were low resolution, they seem to imply a lot of detail. um Although I couldn't really like bring up a whole lot of um direct examples of that right now. um I would say that overall Infinite does look really good, but it looks a little bit cartoonish. But it's hit or miss. So like, for example, I have the video pulled up here and you can use the footage or you cannot. um
Yeah. I mean, it's actually running pretty good on the screen share right now.
okay.
And I love this too. I love this opening. Like I love the
Yes.
the old stone ring with whatever, I don't know if that's like Forerunner magic coming off of it or whatever the hell Forerunners have.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It looks like a Stargate, but it's pretty and it makes a good menu.
It it
Uh,
reminds me of Stargate, like the old film.
yeah, that's what it makes me think of, honestly. But um, I like that there's like wild animals walking around and they're really well animated, and we'll get into like you know um more stuff of substance of that later. I guess right now we're just talking about the looks, and I would say right here, like it's colorful, it's vibrant, it looks fun, it looks like Halo, it looks like a world that I want to explore. Um, the music here was very pretty.
Yeah, that
And
was something. We'll talk about music in a second. Really quickly though, I really like that analogy you said about like a sculptor. If you just focus on the eyes, the rest of it's going to look kind of shitty because you do have to kind of step back and make sure the picture as a whole looks good. And that's where it gets kind of complicated because I feel the same. Like for people who say that they think Halo 3 like there's people who think like graphically, texture wise, model wise, and everything looks better. that's just a hard no. Like Halo 3,
That's
you
just
could
kind of
never,
objectively,
yeah,
inaccurate.
yeah, like you could never have done what we've seen in this game on an Xbox 360. Like just plain and simply, you could not have done it. But I will say, stepping back and looking at the picture as a whole, I think of that image from Sierra 117. I think that's the name of like what the first mission.
Wait, can I stop you just for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're talking about an image in Sierra 117, are you about to mention when the Phantom flies overhead in the opening?
Yes, and you see the pool of water and the little waterfall and the light. Like you feel like you are in the forest.
I'm surprised we are thinking of the exact same thing. It looks real to me. Of course, when you go up to a cliff face, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't real. You walk up to a marine, it's like, oh my gosh, their face looks like putty. But
even I was gonna say, even rewind 30 seconds back and look at Sergeant Johnson, as beautiful of a character as he is, look at his face and it's horrifying. It's a nightmare. So like, yeah, overall, like there's that juxtaposition, but overall, weapon in hand as Master Chief walking through the forests of Africa, shit, yeah, that looks mad good. Like that looks really good. So that's where that difference is. Yeah, like graphical fidelity, detail, resolution, this takes the cake, but I can understand why people would think, yeah, when I played Halo 3, like I felt like I was in a more 3D world. So go ahead, show whatever you're going to show here.
Yes. So everything in Halo 3 just played really, really perfectly together. All of the different elements of what makes the final picture that you see on the screen. And
look at Chief there.
We're comparing this to the gold standard, and I do have to say, everything in this first
2 minutes or so.
2 minutes, everything right up to the end of the cutscene looks incredible. I mean, his face looks incredible. You can see all the little, it looks real. It's not awkwardly animated. It looks a little bit heightened. It doesn't quite look like a real person, but that's fine. It looks good. There's really kind of granular physics going on in the belt over his shoulder. It looks great, and Chief looks fantastic. I love his visor. I love the reflections. I love the way that the light hits and bounces off. I love that you can see it's a little bit bumpy. It's not perfectly smooth and shiny. I like all the scuffs, and you can see the metal underneath the paint job. I like the coloring. The green is it's just a better green than they used in Halo 4 and 5. I don't know how else to put it.
I agree, yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. That's the best Chief has ever looked. Like design-wise, this goes back into kind of art style, art direction and everything. Design-wise, that is like, I think, the best Master Chief has ever looked. And that's coming from someone who even likes Halo 4 and 5. Like, I like Chief kind of looking like a tank like that. But this is just what Chief, I think, should look like. And I agree. Everything in this part looks on par of what we've seen, in the like last year's E3 with that like Hope trailer or whatever it was. But yeah, I kind of agree. Now, kind of going back into what we were talking about before was what we're about to see right here. I don't think this looks bad. It just looks to me unfinished. And this is more just talking about graphical fidelity. Like, they built this Slipspace engine, this whole new engine from the ground up to be running on what is touted as the most powerful console in history. And with all the specs, that makes sense as someone who knows about those kind of like computer specs. Xbox really is freaking powerful, the new one. It's just this kind of comes across as a late current gen game, which I guess I understand because it kind of was supposed to be a late current gen game. But yeah, there's no I like the animal effects you'll see here in a second. But there's no like movement in the trees. There's just kind of something about it that doesn't fully feel immersive. But at the same time, like graphically, I think it does look good. But the gun model looks kind of plasticky, like people are saying. It doesn't look as like gritty as like Reach or Halo 3 or anything. So yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated talking about the graphics with a game that does look good, but for some reason doesn't. And I think that's where the difference between art style and like graphical fidelity comes in.
So while we're talking about art direction on Chief's armor, you were talking about him looking tanky. Do you think that he looks more tanky in Halo 4 and 5?
I think that the armor with the kind of the ring-like chest plate builds him out more. I think his boots were definitely tankier. Like if you look at, like he's kind of got like this like shin guard plate in place that's interesting looking. I think it looks great, but it definitely is. He definitely looks wider and just thicker overall. But this is definitely a tankier version of like Halo 2 and Halo 3.
It's interesting. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. I mean, I think he looks more like a. I mean, I guess I should just stop using the adjective tankier. That's so, you know, indescriptive. But I think he looks stronger now.
Yeah, the armor looks more form-fitting, but he looks huge.
Now, you can't see my video right now because of some, you know, technical aspects of how we're shooting this, but you can use this video of me if you want. I'm going to face the screen, and I'm going to mention one thing that I hope is how they're doing it. I'm going to move my shoulder, and I'm basically going to rotate it normally this way, I'm going to rotate it normally this way. I'm going to move it around like this. I'm basically just moving my ball and socket joint. I'm not actually moving my shoulder up and down. I imagine that is how Chief should look. But if I remember correctly, and so that anyone watching this knows, I haven't played Halo 4 or 5 in a long time. But I remember in the mocap, they kind of had his shoulders articulate and be able to move up and down. I could be completely wrong, but I think that he moved like that, and that like in that armor, he should not be able to do that. He should be a little bit more robotic and limited in what he can do, but still be agile. And the way that his armor looks right now, it seems like it would be impossible for his shoulders to articulate in that way. And I hope that is the case. And when I watch this sequence, I see he is very still. He is very kind of, I don't know, you know, confident in his walk. His chest is always straight up. His head is always straight up. He's not moving any more than he needs to. He's being very efficient, and he feels kind of robotic, and I like that. Yeah, I mean, really, he should just be, you know, be a big husk of armor that you control. He shouldn't have a whole lot of humanity, just enough that you care about him, and that's exactly what this scene does. He just has just enough. You know, his eye is on the mission, but he cares about this guy just enough that you're just like, oh.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that kind of sense from him too.
Yeah. Back to graphics. I kept playing back this part when the hatch opens. I love this flare. In the background, there's bloom. It's all bright. And then the camera adjusts. Mm-hmm. That was a really nice touch. I liked that a lot.
I like that too. Actually, Matt, if you could kind of fast forward to not the first little skirmish with Grunty has, but when he pulls out his pistol, because I want to kind of move it along here and talk about something that falls into graphics, but more so art style. And that's going to be back up a little bit.
I think he pulls out the pistol here. No, you're not. Yeah,
right about there. Right about when he gets in the Warthog. Yeah, so he's driving around. I guess also before we get to that really quickly, he's about to open up the open world map here. We don't got to talk too in depth about this right now. I'm interested to see how that's going to go. I don't know. People are complaining, thinking, oh, this is Destiny. If you think because there's just an open world map that it looks like Destiny, there's some more research you need to do, because I don't know much about this. I don't think the game is going to be like Destiny. If it is, then I'll eat my words, but I just don't think having a slightly open world aspect to the game makes it like other open world games. But we'll see. I genuinely don't know. All I know is I am interested, and it looks tactfully done. It looks like it's something that's going to be interesting to explore, but you can still just play the main game if you want to.
Okay. I've never played Destiny. Was Destiny open world?
It's kind of open world. It's like a MMO light looter shooter type of thing, where there's different planets, but there's just kind of like big open world-ish sections of each planet you can go on and stuff like that. Which, like, yeah, might be the case for Halo, but that doesn't mean that anything else in the game is going to be like Destiny. That's just kind of my take on it. But this looks open. They said I heard from Alana Pierce, which she was reporting on it, and she talked to a 343 dev. The guy said that the game for Halo Infinite is going to be more than double the size of Halo 4 and Halo 5's game combined. So that's pretty big. That's going to be a pretty big game.
Yeah, I've only seen some gameplay from Destiny back when I was when I was in college, one of my roommates played it a lot, and it seemed like he was just constantly grinding for like in-game points or cash or XP or something. And I thought, this doesn't
Just
look
loot and
fun.
stuff. Yeah.
I don't think that this seems like that at all. However, one thing that bothered me was the upgrades thing. I think getting an open world map, being able to go where you want, and I see there's like canyons here, so I imagine that you would have to move on with the story in order to get onto these other parts, and that's kind of how they make it semi-linear, which
Yeah.
is a really good idea to me. I mean, it seems kind of like a classic idea.
That's
Uh,
what Halo was originally shooting for
yeah,
back in 2001.
and I like the idea of the database. I don't know what it is, but it sounds to me kind of like, I don't know, it could be like a Pokedex or something, just
A
like
codex. I
flex.
hope so.
Oh, okay. So is a codex like kind of like a Pokedex in Pokemon or something like that?
Yeah, like you encounter a new elite type and you can pull up its stats. There was something like that
Okay.
in Halo Reach. I don't
Yeah,
know how
that'd
in
be cool.
depth it was, but I hope that's in there. Yeah.
The upgrades thing concerns me. I think that it's a bad idea to start Chief out less powerful and then just be able to give him buffs that he just has for the rest of the game. I definitely think that having equipment that is temporary use or that can be switched out on the fly in gameplay is better for Halo. So I'm a little worried about
Yeah. Now, excuse me, I can kind of see that. Though here's what I think the upgrades tab is going to be used for, and I could be totally wrong. I don't have any insider knowledge on this, or on anything for that matter. But the way I think upgrades are going to work in this game is if you go to the section where he first kills those grunts, like right as he gets out, he walks over a grunt and it says plasma pistol, and then it says like the projectile, the type of ammo it is, and then like something else
Yes.
underneath it. There's three little tabs. I don't think upgrades is for making weapons more powerful. I think it's more for just like swapping stuff out. So the one gun he picks up, maybe it'll make it a 3-round burst, or you could upgrade it to be fully auto, or you could keep it. Like, I think it's just going to be more diversity of play as opposed to making the weapon more powerful. But that also goes in to say that who knows that's what it has to do about weapons. Like maybe it's more about like armor abilities and stuff. I genuinely don't know. I just think it's not going to be for making weapons more powerful. I think it's just going to be making them used for different things. I
Yeah.
hope.
I like the design of the battery of the AA cannon.
Yeah, that looks cool.
What do you think about the design of the Warthog?
I'm going to be honest. I haven't really looked too detailed, like too much in depth on it, but I think it looks like a warthog. I
Sounds
don't really
good.
know.
It sounds good. It
Yeah.
looks like it handles well.
Yes, I
I
think it's going to be fun to traverse the world with it, and I don't have really any complaints on it. And I like the original looking shield back, where it's like the two slats going back.
Yeah, this is a super nitpicky kind of little thing that bothers me, but I can't stand it that these things have these gas canisters on the back.
Oh, I like it.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it's not a utility vehicle that you're driving around a battlefield to refuel other cars. I mean, it's just a big old, target on its back that says, "Here, shoot me, blow me up." I doubt
Maybe
that's
that's what it's
actually
used for.
I doubt that's actually a gameplay element, like that, you let it pass and then you shoot the gas cans and it sets on fire or something. I don't think that they would do that. I mean, that seems like too much of a weakness to me. But it
Yeah,
just
maybe. I don't think that might not be the case. I think it's just a design thing. I just imagine that a warthog eats up gas, and that's why they have
so give it a larger
4 or 5
tank.
canisters.
I mean, it definitely doesn't make sense to have the gas cans on for the Warthog. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I mean, when you really just think about, how it would actually be
Yeah.
used. It's
I like
like
I like the design for it though. I think it looks more like utility. One
a
thing I
troop
will
hog,
say,
it would make sense. A troop hog with the gas cans on the back, that feels like more of a utility vehicle that you're
yeah,
driving around to
like they
refuel
had
up,
for Halo 3.
like your logistics group in the army, and you're taking fuel out to a spot where there are a bunch of vehicles that are running low on fuel or whatever. That may, or you're spreading troops out or whatever. But in a battle Warthog with a turret on the back, that just seems like just tactically a bad choice to me. So it's such a little thing, but it's always stuck out to me whenever I see those gas cans on the back.
Yeah, I think it's just part of the design. But moving on to like some important art direction now, like this is where he jumps out and he shoots some grunts and then he pulls out his pistol. And here's the thing. I personally like how that pistol looks, but I don't want it to be the only pistol in Halo. Like if that replaces the Magnum, I'm not going to be too happy about that. Maybe it's a faster shooting pistol, lighter rounds, like it doesn't do as much damage. That's fine. That's totally great. But if it replaces the Magnum and there's no Magnum, that pisses me off. But then it's a toss-up because it's like in Halo 2, they changed the Magnum, and I liked it back then too. But I don't know why a game would create the most powerful pistol that has ever been in a game, and everyone loves it, and no one has ever complained about it, and then just not do that ever again. So I really hope they put the original Magnum back in. This is where it gets kind of iffy for me. This is where my worry starts because it's like, again, like I said, if that pistol's in the game, that's fine if it's a cool pistol, but I hope the Magnum's in. Where it gets worrisome is later on in the video, you see Chief pull out a shotgun. I think it's called the Bulldog. And I don't necessarily fully trust everything that IGN says, but in an interview from IGN or one of their articles, it straight up says, and I'll see if I can find the image and put it on screen for you guys. It straight up says that this Bulldog pistol fucking replaces the shotgun. Or I'm sorry, the Bulldog shotgun replaces the Halo shotgun, like the original design. I do not want that. And I hope I'm just getting heated up over nothing. Like I hope that the shotgun is in the game. Because here's the thing.
Are you talking about this?
Yeah, I also like that design. And it's upgraded with a drum mag and everything. But I don't want that to replace the Halo shotgun. They said this is like a 12 gauge, so it's less powerful as opposed to Halo's like 10 or 8 gauge or something. And that's where the design starts to piss me off a little bit, where it's like, I'm glad you're putting your own stuff in it. But one, while I like that design, it's still not super inspired. And it's definitely not worthy of replacing like the other shotgun.
Yeah, I'm noticing a difference in just from a gameplay perspective and how it works as well. With a shotgun, you reload it shot by shot, and any point during the reload animation, you can continue shooting with as many bullets as you put in. But this is just a full mag. You just pop out the mag, you put a different one in. From a gameplay
that's the other thing.
that seems a little annoying. It would definitely be nice to have both.
I hope there's both, but that IGN section said it replaces, which I hope is incorrect because IGN can be incorrect. So I like this little pistol. I think the design is okay. Here's the thing. This is another thing I had to complain about with the art direction. And this is, I guess, nitpicky. And I guess I got my, nostalgia goggles on, but I'm glad the Banished is in the game. I read up a lot of their lore. I never played Halo Wars 2, but I'm glad the Banished is in the game. I just don't like the Banished weapons. I don't like how they look. I think that, again, they look uninspired. And they just like the Brute Spiker, the Mauler from Halo 3. That stuff looks so good. And again, if that stuff's in the game, that's great news. But if this stuff replaces it, I'm not super interested in that. Like that kind of bothers me. That, if you're going to replace something, you better make it look good. And these guns just don't look good. That cool 3-round burst gun that Chief picks up here in a second, I think he already has it. Looks cool from the side, and it looks powerful, but I do not want to run around with that frickin' behemoth in my hand. It's not a good-looking gun. It blocks up so much of the screen, and the particle effects are too much. I get it. It's a powerful gun, but this is just another aspect of the art direction that I think alludes to how cartoony it looks. Is you got that gun shooting, there's red and blue stuff sticking out of it the whole time. It's all over the place. It's covering up so much of the screen. The projectiles are huge. The effects it has are huge. Some people might like that, but I think that innately makes it look cartoony. Like if you tightened up those effects and you make them look like little plasma bolts and you make the effects hit but not explode all over the place, and maybe some blue or red plasma comes out, in my eyes, that's a better, more realistic looking effect. Obviously realistic, maybe off the case because we're talking about plasma weapons here. but I think it's a better looking effect than just whatever the hell this shit is splashing all over the place. I just don't like that. I think tighter effects look better. And this, like, everything from the brute banished designs of their weapons to the effects they have, even the Covenant, is just too much. It's too much green, red, and blue shit flying all over the screen.
I would say that it is definitely over-designed. I would agree on the particle effects. It's now in the case of the brute weapon here, this 3-shot burst thing, because it was taking up so much of the screen and because it seemed so powerful, it was kind of reminding me of a fuel rod cannon in that it's, it's got it's a big gun that is a limited amount of ammo. It doesn't really have a whole lot of practical use cases, but it's fun. It's a weapon that you can use really powerfully for a short amount of time.
Yeah, it looks like it tears through shields and stuff nicely.
So it looks like you plow through ammo on it really quickly. So considering it's, seems to be designed to be a short use weapon, I'm okay with the fact that the particle effects are really extra. Even though I don't particularly love it, I'm okay with it. But then he pulls out this pulse carbine, and this thing,
which better not replace the carbine.
Yeah. Now this pulse carbine seems like it would be a more practical weapon that is more for general use against infantry, and you would actually be more useful throughout a level and not just for blowing up a single big thing and having a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
But when he shoots at anyone, even with the pulse carbine, it's almost as dramatic and exaggerated. All that blue whatever that's splattering all over his enemies, it's almost as dramatic as the Ravager.
Like, what is the point of that?
So you were using the term tighter effects, less over designed. I would agree. Definitely the particle effects are really extra throughout the entire thing, and also these energy particles look like blood to me. Like it looks very kind of solid pastel, like bright alien blood. It looks like solid pastel colors. There's not a whole lot of bloom coming off of it, so it doesn't seem like it's emitting light. It just seems like paint, like a splatter of paint.
Yeah, because now we don't know what's plasma and what's blood. And if you also notice, there's no blood effects splatting on the ground. Now, keep in mind, we're doing a lot of complaining here, but keep in mind, I still think the game looks good. I think this feels like Halo. Yeah, I think this feels like Halo, and I think it's going to obviously be tightened up. The reason I say that also is because I think also in Alana Pierce's little interview she did with the 343 guy, he mentioned that this was an early build. I've heard that it's from January. I don't think it's from January, but this is definitely not the final product, obviously. Now, that being said, there's only a couple months till the game comes out anyways, so how much work can you really do? But also, if you look at the 1 minute long campaign trailer, there's some tightened up graphics. So some stuff has been addressed and fixed. I just think that there might be a couple things that are a little too far gone, being the designs of the weapons, if they're replacements and not just additions, and the particle effects. I guess they could tighten that up. But going back to the particle effects, I'm going to talk on this for a second again because I'm really passionate about this. I think this is one of the biggest reasons, besides the brute designs and armor, that is the reason why the game looks so cartoony. Remember that like Halo 3 marketing movie that I don't know if it was Bloomberg, one of those crazy directors, like did it, and it was like a live action little thing. If you remember that?
Are you talking about the 3-parter?
Yeah, it was like mainly Marines running through, and birds throwing stuff at the
So
wall.
Bloomberg is a businessman. It was a South African director named Neil Blomkamp. He directed District.
Blomkamp, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking of.
And Blomkamp for many years was actually my favorite director, and the first thing that I saw from him was that. I thought it was incredible.
Yeah, and because Blomkamp's got his own like production company and everything, I'm pretty sure.
The Fight. I'm trying to remember exactly what they called the full thing all put together. I think it was Landfall.
Yeah, but regardless, that style where it was live action, so it looked real, but there was effects in it that you could tell this is also Halo, but they weren't so overdone. Like, could you imagine watching that and then seeing these plasma effects
Yes.
on screen with that? It would be stupid. It would be dumb. It would immediately look, it would completely ruin the suspension of
And
disbelief.
honestly, in terms of art direction, I think that Landfall actually blends with images of Halo 3 gameplay really well.
Yeah, that's another
The
thing
furry
too. Is,
brutes and just the color palette in general. It looks great. I loved
and
that.
this was also something I was kind of hoping to avoid talking about. But
And by the way,
furry
Neil
brutes,
Blomkamp
why are
Studio,
they
it's called
bald?
Oats. Neil Blomkamp Studio is called Oat Studio. You can find it on YouTube. He's made some really cool stuff. And recently, it sounds like he might be finally making a movie again. He stopped for a while, but I'm side note, but I'm excited.
Yeah,
He makes cool
that's
stuff.
cool. I mean, I obviously like what he did if I'm referencing it and still have that imagery from something I haven't seen in 15 years from Halo almost. But not 15 years, but a long time.
So I was going back here
Regardless.
just for one more thing about the particle effects. When I first saw this, okay, I don't really like that orb. It
Yeah, like weird shockwave.
it just looks bad, but that's not actually why I pulled this up. I pulled this up because when you see that, it looks like those two grunts just exploded. I mean, they did, but it looks like this is all blood, but it's not. It's plasma. But the
I
plasma.
think that plasma effects looks fine.
Well, my problem is that I mean, my problem is that at first I thought that was all blood, and I was like, "Oh Jesus, that was really extra." Like from a violence perspective, but I was okay with it because it felt like the kind of tongue-in-cheek extra violence that I feel like Bungie would have done. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and then there's a little bit of bloom here. There's actually light emitting from the explosion. It looks like plasma, but this kind of like pastel paint kind of blood. It turns out that's not blood. It's plasma effect.
Yeah, I don't mind that plasma effect on grenades, like a plasma grenade, but it looks like every plasma weapon does that.
I don't really particularly like it in the explosions, like with grenades either.
I think it would look better if it landed on the ground and like singed the ground. I think that would sell that effect because otherwise it just kind of falls flat because it just disappears.
How about the elites?
The elites look good.
Yeah, I mean, he did his role. He's agile. He doesn't look too heavyweight. I didn't hear any audio. I didn't hear his voice, but I hope it's not like really deep and grunty like it was in Halo 4 and 5, especially 5.
I just hope it's wart.
Yeah, that'd be fun too. But, I mean, not too deep, not wart, more like wart.
Yeah, like how they were back in the day.
You know, their voice shouldn't be as deep as the brutes, and they are generally more samurai-like and more honorable and noble than the brutes are. So I want to see that difference.
The lighting on them is a little weird. They don't look super shiny. Like I feel like they're, well, I guess there he kind of does. I think the elites look fine. I think all the Covenant and the grunts and everything look fine. The Jackal looks cool too.
Yeah, I like
my
the
big
grunts.
thing.
And I like the Jackal.
My big thing here is the brutes. They don't run like brutes. Like notice these guys, they just kind of berserk and they sprint like a human at you. They don't like crawl on all fours, which I think is just more intimidating.
They look like
they're all bald.
That was my big problem is they're all bald. Now I did see like not 2 days ago some footage from Halo Wars 2.
Yeah. Which 343 made, right?
So the first one wasn't. The first one was Ensemble Studios, but I did hear that I did see something about 343 making it. Can we fact check this real quick?
Yeah, fact check that, and then also think about this too. Like if 343 did make that, whether they made it or not, the Halo Wars 2 brutes look freaking incredible.
Would you look at that?
Atriox.
343 Creative Assembly. So I don't know who created.
Why would they not put that design in the game? I don't get that.
Well, what I was going to get at was that the footage that I was seeing hairless brutes.
Yeah.
In some pre-rendered cutscenes from Halo Wars 2.
There are hairless brutes in Halo Wars 2, but then look at Atriox. That's clearly a much better design. Why not just make them look like that? Because now you got Craig. I don't know if you've seen the Craig memes going on.
Yeah, I have.
I've been having a hoot with those. Again, keep in mind, I've been talking a lot of shit today, but I am excited about Halo, and I am liking, for the most part, what I'm seeing. I just I was having a freaking field day with that Craig meme.
This is some really cool concept art, but I
And that looks
generally
less cartoony.
I think that hairless brutes do look bad. You gotta have all that hair, gotta have all that. Like if you're gonna
Yeah,
be
that's
leveraging the
Atriox.
power, if you're gonna be leveraging the power of the Xbox Series X, give them some fur, do some simulations.
Yeah, and then here's another thing too, and I'll try to stop like complaining so much about stuff because there's stuff I like, but go back to that picture of Atriox.
This one.
So this new villain, I like the things he says. I like how his voice sounds.
He's very
The
well
guy who
characterized.
he's
He has
very well
motivation.
characterized.
He almost seems honorable, not noble like elites per se, but like
he will honor a fight to the death.
He really wants a fair fight.
Yeah, and he's calling Chief out. I think that's cool. Everything about him is cool, but this is where I actually think that his graphically he looks like Xbox 360. That's like the one thing I actually thought looked really bad. And then also like his design looks okay, but still a little cartoony. So go back to that Atriox really quickly. That's what I thought Halo Infinite was going to look like. That image right there.
Yeah.
Whether there was Bruiser in it or not, that kind of fidelity is kind of what I thought.
Yeah. One reason
the game was going to look like,
because I see things like the Blair cutscenes, and I think, oh, they're really working up the next gen, and I think, oh, I just really hope that it looks like this. And
yeah,
I mean, maybe that's just not realistic. But
but here's the thing, though, is it kind of is. Other games can look like that, and some other games do look like that. The thing is with Halo, I do always love seeing the new graphics, but also like it is a lot about the art style, and I just feel like they could have done the perfect blend of like think of everything from that Hope trailer from last year, blended with what the brutes look like graphically and design wise in Halo Wars 2. That I think would have been like the perfect marriage of the two designs, because what we got was Covenant that looks pretty good, but the brutes just like their armor is too Lego-y. It's too big. It's too cartoony. I don't know how to say it other than that. So I think there's some things art direction wise that are a little too far gone.
Take a look at this. This is from Halo 3. I mean, obviously, 2007 game textures don't look as good. I wonder if I can make this bigger. No, I really can't. But I like the protruding cuspids and bicuspids on the bottom teeth. I think it would be really cool if they did that with the brutes. And let's go ahead and see a close-up of this guy. When he talks, all of his teeth are staying inside his mouth. I think it would be cool to see his lower cuspids and bicuspids actually sticking out and having a little bit of some sort of interaction with his upper lips, like little tusks. I think that alone would help a lot.
At least coming out of the bottom. I look at that and I think, what a kick-ass speech, what a cool character, but that's so cartoony.
And
that's so cartoony. Who thought
the voice actor?
Who thought to put that on screen up close? Like who thought, yeah, these graphics are okay. Let's put them up. Like this is my one thing where I will say these graphics look bad. But other than that, like I still think the game looks okay. Like
it does kind of evoke when you see human faces up close. In Halo 3, I mean, as much as I rave about Halo 3, when you looked at human faces up close, they looked bad.
But just look at the textures on his lips, like
they're
missing.
The textures are actually good. I think the problem here is so at first I was thinking, wait, why is his face so blurry? And then I started looking at blurry details as the video went on, and I saw, oh, now they're crisping up. Oh, no, they're blurry. And then I realized it's depth of field. The problem here, there is good texture on his face, but the depth of field is so narrow. It's like an f1.8 or something like that. If you were to talk,
I feel like maybe that's like
terms. I'm sorry.
I feel like that's maybe the effect they were going for, but it just ended up looking like a 360 game.
Yeah, they definitely need. I mean, if you're talking about like real lenses, they need a close down the aperture a little bit to maybe like. I mean, for such a close-up, like f4.5, f6, and so that you can really get every part of his face in focus. You can still have, this out of focus. You can have anything behind him out of focus, but his face needs to look crisp. You need to actually see that detail.
Yeah, and if that's the effect they weren't going for, this shot to me is just a failure overall. I would like to have seen him look more like Atriox. I would like all the brutes to have hair and look more like Atriox. I would like their designs to look more like Halo Wars 2, especially since 343 made that. I'm kind of baffled by the brutes and their weapon design and everything. But complaining or not, all that to be aside, I still think this looks pretty good. I think that's a graphically good looking game with, if you up the textures and the lighting a little bit, maybe make those trees, the leaves and the pines move and stuff. I think that looks great. I think that looks like a world that I want to explore. And I love how Master Chief looks, and I like how most of the weapons design looks. I just think like really tighten up those particle effects, completely change the brutes and stuff like that. And I think that would significantly improve it. Again, this is only one small section of the game. Apparently this is like several hours into the campaign too. So I think there's going to be a huge variety. Let's kind of keep moving it along though, because we've been chattering a lot about the same thing. I think you guys have a pretty general idea on what our consensus is on the graphics. I think they look good and bad at the same time somehow. Still good overall, but a lot of the art style and a lot of the particle effects and some gun and character designs really, really need to be reworked. Next thing I want to talk about, Matt, is the audio. What do you think like the guns sounded like, or just the audio in general? Because that was a big part of the Slipspace engine that they hyped up.
Well, it would have helped if I could have listened to it in 5.1. I'll give you that. I mean,
Yeah.
just hearing it in 5.1 off of a stream on YouTube isn't really going to tell me, whether it is fantastic, especially when I know that, back in the day, Marty O'Donnell put a lot of emphasis on surround sound and really being able to hear every element of a gunshot. The shot itself, the sound of the shell of the bullet casing popping out of the gun, the sound of it clinking against the ground, the difference in the sound of the gun when you get further and closer away from it. And, we don't really get a lot of that here. So I don't feel like I have enough information to go off of. Overall, I think it was perfectly effective. I don't have any huge complaints. I love the music. I can't really tell how adaptive it is. I mean, clearly it's adaptive in the sense that when you go up this elevator, you hear the, you get that classic motif from Marty O'Donnell, except, kind of reworked to sound, a little bit more mysterious and work a little bit better with this new Halo and the Banished. And I think that was done very well.
I like the music a lot. I have literally no complaints about it. I think it definitely sounds like its own game, but also sounds like Halo. I think that the audio design of the weapons could sound a little bit better, particularly the human weapons. I think so even talking about the brute weapons that I don't like, excuse me, the brute weapons, I think they still sound really good, especially this little gun right here. I think that thing sounds pretty cool. I think I'm playing through Combat Evolved right now, and I think back to how that assault rifle sounded. And while, yes, that might not sound like a real gun, it sounds like the assault rifle.
Yeah.
I think it sounded okay in this. Like it didn't sound bad. It just didn't sound like that deep kind of like lip smacking, rattling assault rifle sound.
Yeah, I'm going to get a listen to this here for a moment. It sounds real beefy to me.
It sounds good.
I honestly think it might sound a little bit too beefy. But I think my opinion is probably in the minority for that.
Yeah. Well, all opinions count, except if you're stupid. But
okay. Except if your opinion is stupid.
Yeah. No, not if your opinion is stupid. If you're stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows if I'm stupid? No. I loved this. I loved this this specularity on the screen. I think that was probably just a simple specular map, and they just made sure that it was mapped along the edge,
reflective enough, yeah,
to be reflective along the edges and not in the center.
I like that. I think that's a good effect. And again, like looking at this world, I think it looks good. So audio sounds good. I think for the most part, anyways, a couple things could probably be touched up. I think graphically, the game looks like a good looking game. I just think I can definitely see what a lot of people are talking about with the cartooniness, with some of the effects just being a little too crazy.
I heard
I
some
just kind
people
of hope that stuff
complaining
is,
about the canyon and being like, "Oh, it looks like Minecraft." I don't agree with that either. I think it's a nice touch.
yeah,
It's just an interesting design choice, and I mean, after all, I mean, we are talking about a Forerunner construct where things
yeah,
could be manufactured, but also it's kind of a blend of manufactured and natural because there are areas in real life, I think in Ireland and other places where these are natural geological structures where you
yeah.
get
That's
the
weird.
hexagonal pillars. Um,
I think
so,
the big thing was is people don't like that they're not textured. They're
oh,
just like smooth.
you know what? That's a good point. I mean, I
I
never
mean,
got to see
texture them
them
up a bit, and
up
I think they
close,
look
but they do
amazing.
look kind of like a smooth clay gray. I didn't see much texture there, but just the idea of using them as a way to box off the canyon so that you can have an open world, but not so open that you can't have any linearity in the story. I think that's clever. I like that.
Yeah. Can you turn the audio off on your?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Um,
Well, were you able to hear me when I was speaking there?
a little bit, yeah. I think actually when you just disabled your computer from getting audio, the video actually ran better too for some reason, unless I'm just wrong. But yeah, I think everyone has their opinion about this game, and I think for the most part they're all pretty valid, unless you're just hating on it for no reason. I think that there's a lot to improve. I think that they're on the right track. Like this felt like Halo. They definitely kind of gave you that feeling of the level Halo, the second level from Combat Evolved. I just think there's a couple things I would like to see changed slash improved, but overall, I'm pretty impressed. Now, one thing I do hope we get soon is we now know that this story is kind of like the main gist of the story is the UNSC lost, humanity lost. The Banished are taking over the ring. What for? I don't think we necessarily know yet. And apparently, Escharum, I think is the bad guy's name, has grown so tired of just defeating everybody. I just got a clip of Craig there. Escharon has gotten so sick of defeating everyone that he calls out Master Chief. So it's kind of personal. So that's all we really know about the story. I don't know if we're going to get anything that has to do with Cortana. I sure hope so. I heard that this is a sequel to Halo 5, but you don't have to have had played any other Halo game to jump in, which sounds like a good thing, but I don't know if that is a good thing. That might mean the story's kind of loose and sloppy, or at least just not very effective. As much as I didn't really love Halo 5, I want to see that story resolve. I want to know what's going to happen with Cortana. That's basically where my emotional investment is in 343's games, is the relationship between Chief and Cortana. I don't really care about Fireteam Osiris except for Buck. I like Buck. I like Blue Team and everything. I don't know how much they're going to all be in the game. Maybe because it is 4-player split screen co-op. So maybe Blue Team will be your other Spartans. But yeah, I don't know if Locke's going to be in it. I don't know if they're going to resolve everything with Cortana. I do hope that as much as that story wasn't the best in the previous game, I mean, I love it in 4. I think Halo 4 is actually a really good game. Unpopular opinion, maybe I'm wrong about that, but
My opinion is they shouldn't have tried so hard to humanize the Chief. That just seems like it kind of goes against the point of his character to me.
I can see that, but also at the same time is I like how if they were gonna do another Halo story, it was a little bit more personal with Chief and Cortana. Like I did like their relationship, and I want to see what happens now with that. So if that's not in this game, that's going to be kind of weird, and I hope it's not brushed off to the side. Like I want Cortana to be a big part of it. But that being said, I think she's going to, because so far in like all the promos, Jen Taylor has voiced Cortana for them. Unless they were Halsey, but I don't think they were Halsey. I think they were Cortana. But Jen Taylor has been heavily used in the marketing, so I think that story is going to continue. I just think that I guess I was kind of expecting a little bit more of the story to be revealed in this, and we only got a little bit of that brute Escharon, what he wants and what's happened so far.
Well, that's fine.
But I feel like the marketing is going to be ramped up. I feel like they're going to give us a little bit more.
I mean, for me, I mean, Halo 3's story has always been good, especially when you delve into novels and stuff like that. But
yeah,
at its core, I think Halo 3 is mostly just a gameplay sandbox. I think that's what most people come back for.
Yeah.
And so I think that focusing less on the story was definitely a good move on their part.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I definitely think they got across what they wanted to get across because they said that Halo Infinite is a platform. Like, I think if they release new Halo games, it's gonna be like updated to Halo Infinite. I still did like, I mean, this is my personal opinion. I did like what 343 started to do with Halo 4 story, and I didn't like what they did with Halo 5 story. But I do want to see that resolved now, knowing that Master Chief is I think, the only playable character in this game. And we might get a cameo from the Arbiter or something, I think they said. But I want to know, I still want that story continued because I think that's one thing that has happened a lot with 343 is I just feel like I think it's good to focus on criticism from the fans, but I think sometimes it can be poorly founded. Like, for example, a lot of people didn't like Halo 4. Well, I think more people like Halo 4 now, but what 343 did was they killed off the main villain, the Didact, which I personally really liked. They killed him off on a comic somewhere in between Halo 4 and Halo 5, whereas that was an opportunity to make a character that might not have been super great. The character I think was fine, but that might have been an opportunity to expand on that and make him kind of more beloved, which is like what, kind of take another medium, which is what the Clone Wars did with Ahsoka. In the Clone Wars movie, everyone hated Ahsoka. And then the show made you grow to love Ahsoka for the most part. She's a very beloved character. So I think that 343 just kind of like scraps shit when they could improve upon it.
With the Didact, who is the one that you stuck with the grenade in the QuickTime event at the end of Halo 4?
That's the Didact, but he didn't die. And then he has dialogue in the final cutscene of the game. But then in between Halo 4 and Halo 5, there's a comic book.
I thought he just died and that dialogue was just like a post-mortem thing.
I mean, I guess it could have been, but no, he was alive because there's a comic book where Chief and Blue Team go and kill him.
Oh, as far as I knew, we killed him in Halo 4. I mean, it was kind of a stupid QuickTime event. It wasn't satisfying for me, but
no, it was dumb.
As far as I could tell, he was dead. I mean,
it was dumb, but the Didact was cool.
And then watched him fall down a pit.
Yeah, you nuke his ass, but then like he's alive, and then you kill him later. But I like the Didact. I think he would have been cool to kind of carry along. So I just hope 343 doesn't go too crazy with scrapping stuff, but also I hope they don't go too crazy with changing too much. It's so weird. I don't know what they're going to do. I just hope that what they release, I like, and I hope there's some cool surprises in there. And I definitely hope they continue Chief and Cortana's story. Like, I want to know more about, is Cortana going to die a villain? Is she going to be redeemed but still die? Is she going to end up be able to be revitalized somehow and can be your AI again? I want to see that in a satisfying way.
It would be great if they don't just end it the way they did with Halo 5 and never tie that up. I don't expect them to do that, but I mean, maybe they just want to put it behind them. I don't know.
But also at the same time, I don't want them to be like the start of Halo Infinite. You fix Cortana and she's with you again. You know what I mean? Like, that's not good storytelling. That is not good storytelling. As much as I want Cortana back, I want that because I'm emotionally invested in that character. I don't want them to just be like, what did they do for Fantastic Beasts 2 where like they left off?
There tends to be a bit of a gap between the Halo games, and usually what happens in the gap is not that important. Like, Master Chief made it back to Earth. Okay, we don't really need to know how he made it back to Earth. He's back to Earth.
Yeah.
But like, oh, Master Chief just has Cortana back and she's not evil anymore. Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. That would be even crazier than from Halo 4 to Halo 5. I remember Blue Team was just suddenly, those original Spartan 2s are just there. They were alive the whole time. Where did they come from? I don't know. Was it in the comic somewhere? I never.
They've been partying with Chief. Yeah, like Chief just went back and started partying with him and like doing missions and stuff.
They never even addressed it at the beginning of Halo 5, so that was big for me. But I don't expect them to make that same mistake again.
Yeah. And then I also wouldn't want them to bring Cortana back like a couple missions in, which I don't think they would because we don't hear her here, and apparently this is like a couple hours into the game. Unless she's just here and they cut out her audio.
Okay.
But
well, before we tie this video up, could we talk a little bit about gameplay mechanics?
Yes, let's talk about gameplay now, and I think we'll wrap it up on gameplay because I think we've talked to death everything else we have to say about it.
You want to start? I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I really want to talk about the grappling hook, for sure. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh no!" And then I started really thinking about it, and I was like, "You know what? That could be cool. Grappling hook could be really cool. I would hope that it is either temporary use equipment, like in Halo 3, or semi-permanent use equipment that you switch out in favor of other equipments, like when you switch out armor lock
The drop shield he has earlier in
or
this footage.
uh, like what you do in Halo Reach. I mean, armor lock or sprint. I think would be cool if you could do that. I think that it would be a bad idea to just let him have it at all times. Right here is what really made me start thinking about it. I started thinking about the physics of it. And right there, it's just like, think about this for a second. I mean, Master Chief is 1,000 pounds with his armor on. Without his armor on, I think he's like 400, 500 pounds. And he just pulls straight towards it. So we have to suspend our we suspend our disbelief in video games all the time, but we have to believe that grappling hook has a strong enough grip on that, and that this little electric motor in here is strong enough to just shoot straight there. And
not rip his arm off and not
well, I mean, it wouldn't rip his arm off, but I would expect something to break or for the motor to lose torque or something. I would expect, and now I think that this could work, but not in this way. I really wish that instead, he aimed the grapple there and then did like a jump assist, and that you could feel his weight as he was pulling towards it. So he doesn't just pull straight towards it. He pulls and then he starts to lose momentum because gravity is kind of making him arc down a little bit. I imagine that if I were him in this situation and I pinned the grappling hook here, I would go whoop, and then I would start slowing down, and I would wind up like hitting the wall here
and have to like jump and clamber.
Yeah. So I really would like to see them do some really complex interaction between the physics engine and the grappling hook to make you recognize the weight of Master Chief. Just feel it, whether you consciously know it or not. It's like, I don't know, Red Letter Media says, you may have not seen it, but your brain did.
Yeah.
So what you could do is you could just grapple there without jumping, and you would pull straight towards it, but then your weight would kind of cause you to kind of arc down, and you would wind up hitting that wall. Alternatively, you could grapple the same spot but jump at the same time, and then maybe you would arc just enough that you would land on top. Or without a jump assist, maybe instead you grapple closer to here. Can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Okay, so you grapple closer to here, and then you do a bit of like a Nathan Drake whip kind of thing, like you.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think that'd at least make it more interesting. One thing I did hear about it though too, I think one of the developers said that if you grapple hook one of those flying grunts, because apparently the brutes throw grunts now.
Oh yeah, and I wanted to get into that, but tell me what you're talking about.
The developer said that if you grapple one of those grunts, you'll fly towards those grunts. Which doesn't sound good. It sounds like it doesn't make any
sense.
It doesn't make sense, but here's the thing. Imagine it gameplay-wise. You can grapple hook a grunt to kind of throw yourself towards it to like leap over a group of enemies and like flank them or something. I don't know. There's it's a bunch of crazy shit.
So I think I have a better idea here because I was actually going to get into this.
I'd rather you slam it to the ground.
Yes. So here's the thing. That's shit. My SD card is full. So
that's okay.
I'm just going to go ahead and turn the camera off. But I'll still show you the screen here. So see here. You shoot the brute, you aim at center mass. We can, oh, come on. So we can fairly assume that, so just so you know, a fully laden armored brute is around a ton. Meanwhile, Chief is half a ton. He's got some pretty heavy armor. So that grappling hook is probably going to be able to stick into his armor without even damaging him. And certainly because the brute is twice the weight of even the chief, it'll make a good enough anchor that he can pull in towards him. That makes sense. That works. It's an interesting gameplay element. Maybe you can get a
Yeah.
harder melee when you melee right as you pull in. I like that. I think that works. But it
Mhm.
shouldn't work that way universally with all characters. If we go later to there's an elite later that he does the exact same thing to. Is it here? Yeah, right here. So he does the
Yeah.
same thing, but here's the thing. I mean, I know that most people don't particularly care about lore, but even without lore, you can tell that that elite is more lightweight, more agile than a brute.
Probably 500 pounds total.
Yes, actually, I looked it up. I don't know if it's unladen or laden, but I got about a quarter of a ton, around 500 pounds. So he
Yeah.
would. So let's say that a fully laden elite is a little bit lighter than Chief. Let's say he's around 600, 700 pounds. So really, he definitely would not be a good enough anchor, physically speaking, for you to pull towards him. Instead, you would kind of pull towards each other, and maybe he would pull more towards you. But he's still heavily armored. So if you shoot center mass and you hit his armor, then let's assume that it doesn't do damage. Now, but an elite is agile. They roll. They're they probably do parkour in their free time. I mean,
Perhaps.
so wouldn't it be really cool? From a gameplay perspective, if there's a chance that he can actually, when he pulls towards you and you kind of pull towards him at the same time, he rolls out of it and it's harder for you to just melee him immediately. What if he rolls out of it and then winds up behind you and it's like, oh shit, I got to turn around quickly enough? It would add a little,
Yeah.
for me, that would add some intrigue and a little, and it kind of, really make me sit up in my seat.
Yeah, I think that would be good to kind of add a little bit of chance of like certain enemies can get out of it, whereas a brute would probably just have to grab the thing and yank it out if you didn't get to it in time. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
that'd be
think
cool as
adding
well.
elements like that would be good. The whole grunt thing now, yeah, like the second you latched onto a grunt, you're just gonna suck that thing to your fist, and you wouldn't want to do that because he'd have bombs on him. But I still think it'd be fun to use that to kind of swing. So in the
And that's
gameplay
another
trailer, there is showing Chief swinging. In the gameplay trailer, it shows Chief latch onto the bottom of an anti-aircraft battery and swing himself kind of maybe like 20 yards, and he pulls out a sword and gets an elite. And it looks pretty cool. Like it looks like there's gonna be some fun stuff to do with it. Um, I just think that's one of the things. Physics probably isn't the biggest factor
yeah.
with who you're hooking. I think if it's just an enemy, you hook it and you pull to it.
Now that concerns me. I feel like I feel like the grappling hook. The more that I think about it, the more I realize that it's a great opportunity to make the player feel like they have weight. And
Yeah.
despite the fact that Master Chief is very agile and that he can jump very high, it does a very good. That would do a very good job of really cementing that while he is very strong and he can jump very high, he's also really heavy. And I would love to feel that. I would love to
Yeah.
be able to grapple, and I would love to be able to use that mechanic to create so many different possibilities in the sandbox. So you were talking about grappling a grunt. I mean, you definitely should
Which I don't
pull
think
it.
we've seen. Maybe it does pull the grunt towards you.
It should. I mean, a grunt is only 200 to 300 pounds, and meanwhile, you're 3 to 5 times that weight. So you
Yeah.
should definitely pull him towards you. What would be cool to me is that if you hit him from the front, you pull him towards you, and because his armor isn't so heavy, you're going to puncture his suit, and you're probably going to do some damage, like one pistol shot to the chest worth of damage just from it pinning into his flesh,
Yeah.
and then he pulls straight towards you. And most grunts in that situation, they would probably just panic, and as soon as they got to you, they'd start trying to run. But maybe some would pull
Yeah.
out a plasma grenade. Maybe you'd have to work your way out of that. Meanwhile, imagine
That'd be cool. Imagine latching onto a grunt, and then as you pull it in, it just goes, "Oh no!" and then pulls out a grenade, and then
that
you have
that
a
would be
plasma grenaded
hilarious.
grunt flying towards you.
I don't
I
know if that
hope
would
that's in the game.
I don't know if that would actually work out well from a gameplay perspective. Maybe it would just piss people off. There would have to be a way to get yourself out of that shitty situation, but it would be funny.
Yeah.
And
Well, maybe that brings
fun.
another thing into. Maybe you can whip the grapple hook. Maybe there's other mechanics we haven't seen yet. Like maybe if you whip.
Oh, that'd be great.
It'd be cool if you hook a grunt, he pulls out a grenade in an oh shit moment, and then you see
and
the
then
grenade.
You can whip them into another group of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be really cool. I hope that's something they thought of. There's no way they haven't.
No. What if you pin him from the back and you actually wind up puncturing his methane tank and then pulling him towards you, and there's like a 20% chance that the methane combusts?
That'd be cool. So you never know. It does a little damage, pops your shield a little bit. I like the shield sound again too. And I actually a lot of people have been complaining about this. I like the shield effect when your shield is down, the little like hexagonal yellow.
I like the sounds, but I don't really like the hexagonal thing on the side. If it were more transparent, then I would.
It feels more transparent or tighter. Again, like I use that word a lot with the effects.
Yeah.
I think like if they made it not obtrusive to your screen, that'd be better.
That's my only issue, is that it seems like it's very opaque, like it's actually covering up your visual when it pops in, even if it's only for like a quarter of a second.
Yeah, and I think that's stuff they can tighten up. Yeah, so I think the gameplay is going to be good. I think the shooting looks good. Like the actual mechanics of shooting an enemy in this game look good and satisfying. Yeah. I really like the hit markers. So when you're getting a hit, the hit markers kind of flare up, depending on how many times you've hit them or if you've gotten a kill. You see the little X. But I think overall the gameplay looks good. I'm very interested. So kind of like my final thoughts wrapping this up. I know there's some things that are hopeless. They're not going to change the design of the brutes. They're not going to change the design of the weapons. But what I can hope for is that there are other variants of brutes that maybe look better. Maybe the older weapons like the spiker. I'm low-key obsessed with that spiker rifle. I've told you this before, Matt, but like to the people watching, that spiker rifle is like one of my favorite guns in Halo, performance-wise, kind of, I guess, in multiplayer. But that thing is just such a beast, and I think it's so cool. And the design looks cool. It looks rustic. It looks used. It looks like if an alien had a gun. Whereas in this one, I don't know. It looks kind of uninspired. But I know there's some things that won't be able to be changed. But I think there are some things that can be changed and improved. Overall, as an overall package, visually, sound, gameplay, I am hopeful. I think it looks good. I'm slightly worried about some things. I'd say maybe like
this looks a bit like a Mega Bloks package.
Yeah, that I definitely don't like. Like I definitely think that there's like a chance that some of these things could improve. I'm at about an 85%, 15% split on excited / worried. There's some things I'm worried about.
I would say mainly 80-20 for me.
Yeah, mainly being the story and just the designs.
I do like the bloom on the energy effects and the lens flare, kind of like J.J. Abrams lens flare kind of.
Yeah, it just looks like it's on a shitty track. Like it doesn't look like it's doing very well.
Yeah, I'm usually not a fan of I'm usually not a fan of those horizontal flares, because I believe just from a cinematographer perspective, I believe it implies that you're using an anamorphic lens. I think only anamorphic lenses tend to make a horizontal flare like that, which is a little weird.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It looks good here. I like it. But definitely the overall design of this thing is very blocky. It's not aerodynamic. Like, look at that corner there.
Yeah, it's almost distractingly unpractical.
Yeah, it looks like a toy that I would pick up. I don't know if Toys R Us still exists, but
I don't think so.
It looks like a toy that I would pick up at Toys R Us. It doesn't look good.
Yeah. But other than that, like my overall thoughts,
more gloss. It needs a little bit more aerodynamics.
Yeah. My overall thoughts are I'm excited, I'm hopeful, and I think that they will turn out a good product. There's just a lot I think they have to do still. And again, this is an earlier build. Why they didn't show us a more up-to-date build, who in Tarnation knows. But hopefully we do see some more gameplay soon that alludes to, some better effects, really just please tighten up those plasma effects. That looks crazy. Like that just doesn't even look like it's effective. You look like you're just, it looks like, it reminds me of Splatoon, I think is the game on Nintendo, where you literally just spray paint everywhere and you can like sink into it and stuff. Like that's what it looks like to me. It looks like Splatoon. So I hope they tighten up those effects. But other than that, overall, I think I am decently impressed and happy. I just hope to see more soon. I hope that this was like, because unfortunately this was their big reveal, but I hope they do give us something soon that makes us go, oh my God, thank you. Like that looks better.
So I think what we're getting at is it looks like like undeniably, it looks like a great game. It looks like, you know, when the Xbox Series X comes out, it will be, if not the best game, it will be probably the second best game. It'll be a really good game, but it might not meet up to, you know, what Halo 3 was for everyone when it came out, or even necessarily reach. And so, you know, as fans of the series, we're a little bit worried that it's just not going to be as good when it comes out as other Halos have been. Maybe we're asking for too much. Maybe we're not. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I agree with everything you said. And the reason is the reason I think we're not asking for too much is because think of it. This is the third of a trilogy. And I think the one thing that worries me is, do you remember the marketing to Halo 3?
They spent $40 million.
It was so good. And this is a $500 million game. And the third of a trilogy.
Well. I mean, every ad.
Yeah, everything was so good. That one down to even again, the Spiker's in this, so I'm a little bit biased, but down to even just those short little clips of those old Marines in like 2590 or whatever. Those old Marines looking at a museum and picking up a Spiker rifle and being like, "Oh, this is giving me like PTSD, like getting bad flashbacks from holding this thing." And like everything was so good. Every little aspect of Halo 3's marketing was so good, and I'm not getting that vibe.
Still in the fight. He gave us hope.
You didn't know if he died or if he was gonna die. The little claymation things were like the little figures that they zoom in and you see Chief light up a grenade.
It wasn't claymation. But you know, I think that there was actually probably a talk in the marketing when they did that Believe ad with the massive diorama, where they were thinking, do we want this to be CG, or do we want someone to actually make this diorama? And ultimately they're like, yes, definitely we want someone to make this diorama. We want it to be real.
It was so much more effective. It was so much more creative, and it is something that I will never forget.
Yeah, I think just as humans, we viscerally react more to real art than CG, even if the CG looks, I don't know, crisper. You know, even if you know, you see the diorama and you instantly know, okay, these are models. It implies something. It implies like, you know, this is in a museum and this is real and someone really worked on this. And it has. Oh gosh, I'm thinking of Christopher Nolan movies where, you know, he insists on doing anything real, but I don't have the words to describe why it's so good. And yeah,
because it's visceral and you buy it more, you're impressed more.
It's more of a magic trick, I guess.
Yeah, because nowadays we just expect CGI and stuff. But anyways, kind of going back to that is like, I'm just not getting those feelings out of this. I'm not getting feelings of, and here's the thing too. This isn't supposed to be a closure game, I guess, for Halo. Like 343 said that they're planning the next like 10 years or something.
Yeah, I heard that
for games, potentially using Infinite as a platform, or maybe they'll just keep making new games, like full separate new games. I don't really know their plan. But I do know that I'm getting Halo vibes for sure. But I feel like storytelling wise, we have a vendetta with a brute, with a character we've never met. So am I really invested? We so far don't know if Cortana is going to be a huge part of the story. We've seen her obviously in trailers and Chief like reminiscing and looking at his little chip of Cortana and stuff like that. We've seen hints that that's going to continue, but based on this gameplay trailer, this kind of seemed like a step back from storytelling. Obviously, it was just simply a gameplay trailer, and I understand that, but I'm just not getting the sense of Halo 3 that I would like to with a third installment in a trilogy, you know? So I don't quite know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, that could be way off. I could be very, very
It
poorly
doesn't
founded
it
on
doesn't
that.
feel like a Return of the King. It feels more like a soft reboot.
Which is what it is. And it's what they said it is too. They said it's definitely a spiritual reboot of Halo, or like a soft reboot of Halo. But I just don't think that after no matter what you think about the Halo 4 and 5 stories, they have played out like a trilogy for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Seems like they were planning it that
peak and
way.
pace and this kind of stuff like that. And now this kind of just seems like a whole different story. I don't mind new bad guys. I definitely don't mind new bad guys. But is this just going to come down to a fist fight with this guy at the end? Like, we don't know who he is. Do we care about him? Why did
Don't do it in a cinematic?
Don't do it in a cinematic. Like, I have my worries, but I also have my hopes. I feel like this is going to be a kick-ass game. And on top of that, we don't even know anything about multiplayer, which is what most people play for the duration of a game's life. So I feel like the multiplayer is going to be pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
Not really. I've said everything that I want to say. I think it looks like a good game. I'm quite worried that I'm not gonna, be as excited for it as I was for Halo 3. I'm certainly not right now, but I mean, it certainly hasn't fallen apart. I see a lot of things that I like.
There's definitely huge potential. I think there's definitely major areas of improvement, but there's huge potential. And in fact, I'm probably going to get off this and go watch the Halo 3 marketing campaign, the entire thing. Because I kind of was hoping for that. You know what I mean? Like, we did get some beautiful trailers so far. So I do definitely have hope.
We could use some dev diaries where we really see, what they've been working on, the frustrations, the good, the bad, I want to see, like, deep dives on, on how the engineers and the art guys, bicker and try and find that balance and the perfect gameplay.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of Halo, honestly. Like, me and Ron still to this day reference lines that, like, Joe Stanton said in video documentaries on Halo 2. Like, that might just be us. We might just be weird, but
Cortana's every girlfriend we've ever had. No, just kidding.
But I feel like we could definitely use some of that. I feel like the hype train is going to start. Like, I feel like they just wanted to get their big reveal out of the way, and we will start getting stuff like that. Because you got to imagine, now that they've showed us gameplay, they're going to start showing us something probably every month up until launch.
Yeah, probably. I would agree with that.
I hope. We're definitely going to get a multiplayer reveal. I know they said their flight plan for betas and stuff like that is a little bit off-put because of the pandemic and everything. But I think we'll still get some sort of beta or flight plan. But at the very least, we're going to get more reveals. So here's to hoping. If you don't have any closing thoughts, that'll basically do it for us, guys. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let us know your thoughts on the game. Sorry we rambled so much, but I think we talked about a lot. I think we definitely covered every pillar of a game for the most part. Graphics, art style, audio, story, everything. So everything that we could think of, at least. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment if you haven't already, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.